Hey guys, I'm Trina, and this is my review of the book Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. Fun fact, this is actually the fourth time that I have tried to record this review, so if you see changes in the frame or the lighting, that is why. I know a lot of people are interested in this book right now because of the upcoming movie, so plenty of people still haven't read it, so I'm not going to be talking about any spoilers in this video. I just want to get some thoughts out there in addition to my regular book review. So as you can tell from the title of this video, I do want to discuss the theme of ableism in this book, and that discussion is actually going to be towards the end of the video. I'm going to first start out with a summary and my review. So if you haven't read the book and you want to know what it's about, this book is set in England and it follows our 26-year-old main character named Louisa, who finds herself unexpectedly unemployed. The only job she can find is working as a caregiver for a disabled man named Will. Will is a quadriplegic, meaning that he's had a spinal cord injury that has rendered his limbs immobile. He cannot do some basic bodily functions such as feeding himself or using the restroom without round-the-clock assistance. And Will used to live a very active lifestyle, so he's had a really difficult transition to living with a disability, and he is just mad at the world. He hates that this happened to him. He feels like he is completely useless and his life is not worth living. And when Louisa starts working for him, he basically wants nothing to do with her. He's mad at her too, and throughout the course of the book they do end up forming a friendship, and that is the main plot of this story. So as for my review of this book, I ended up giving this book a 3-star rating, and that's because there were a lot of things that I really liked about the book and also things that I really didn't like, and they weighed about equally when I think back on the book. The things that I liked, I'll start out with the good stuff. I really enjoyed the writing and the way that it brought these characters to life. I loved getting to be part of the lives of these characters for a short amount of time. Louisa was an amazingly relatable main character because she was flawed and she had just a completely non-spectacular life. For most of the time that I was reading this book, I really thought I would end up giving it a 4 or 5-star rating because I really enjoyed the time spent reading the book. However, the more that I read, the more uncomfortable I got with one of the themes that I felt was present. I strongly felt as though the emphasis of this story was to bring about change in Louisa's life and to better her life, while Will was kind of written off as a character as if his life did not have meaning or value, and that is ableism. Ableism is a term that means the discrimination against people living with disabilities in favor of able-bodied people. And an able-bodied person is someone that is in pretty good health. They have no illness or injury or disability that prevents them from moving around independently. I am an able-bodied person, and I feel like maybe I don't have a stake in this conversation. I certainly would never presume to say that I know what it's like to be a quadriplegic or living with a disability. I'm not in the mind of this character. I don't know, and I feel like because of that, a lot of people may think that I don't have a right to have a voice concerning this topic. I am not saying that this is not a valid story that should not be told. What Will was dealing with and going through could be very real for some real life people. I'm not trying to discredit or invalidate the story that was told here. In fact, this book does bring up a lot of great discussion points. I really did feel like the book's intent was to make people think about things they may not normally have to think about in their day-to-day lives, but I didn't appreciate the way that the disabled character was basically devalued at every chance. I really felt like he was only there as a plot device or as an accessory to the able-bodied character's life. And the emphasis that this book had in the end was always Louisa's life will improve because of Will's disability. However, his life was never given the chance to be shown as living a full life or having anywhere to improve to. Will was very hypocritical. He liked to tell Louisa that it was her responsibility to get out there and live and not let one past trauma define her life, and yet he continued to let his injury define his life. He didn't want to put forth any effort in truly living and experiencing things, and what kind of a message is that to people who are living with a disability or to people who may one day find themselves living with a disability? It seems as if it's saying that if you are disabled, it's okay to just give up and quit caring. Because what's really important here is that you show that able-bodied people should be improving their lives, and while yes, every person should be living life to the fullest, but I just didn't appreciate that in order to make that statement, it had to devalue the life of the disabled character that was present. I think that my main source of anger with the way that this was treated in the book was that Will's feelings of anger and uselessness were never represented as a mental health issue. Counseling and antidepressants were never ever mentioned. Someone that's gone through a very traumatic event like this, of course they're going to sometimes have feelings like that about themselves. Able-bodied people have feelings of uselessness. People with other illnesses and other disabilities have feelings of uselessness all the time. And I just didn't see a satisfying approach to the mental health issue in this book. And I get it that Will was angry, he hated interacting with people, he didn't want to even try, so of course he wasn't going to seek out help himself, but he was clearly having some depressive thoughts, and I felt like at least his caretakers should have at least addressed the idea that, hey, maybe Will is depressed and we could get him help. I would have enjoyed that being a valid part of this conversation too. And as I said, I am an able-bodied person and I feel like maybe I don't have a stake in this conversation, but I strongly felt like this book was very ableist, and I can see that that is very damaging, especially with it gaining mainstream popularity, becoming a movie. There's a whole load of problems with the fact that the movie cast an able-bodied person to play a disabled character as opposed to a disabled actor. That's a whole other can of worms, and I know that maybe I'm not the best person to talk about this. I did seek out reviews from disabled people to see if anyone was talking about this theme in this book, and I couldn't find it. I found a total of 2 things, and they were mainly talking about the movie. I didn't find anything really geared towards the book material, so that's why I'm making this review. If I have misrepresented this character or disabilities in general, please let me know that. I would like to know how to better discuss. Again, I'm not saying that Will's story is one that shouldn't be told or couldn't be real. I just felt like there was a strong potential there for that to be sending kind of the wrong message. Somebody might get a message out of it that could be harmful. And I want to end this by saying that I'm not trying to shame anybody that liked this book. There's nothing wrong with liking this book and having given it a 5-star rating, because this book did bring up so many great topics. This book is a very impactful story and it does give you a lot of food for thought. There's nothing wrong with having loved it. I just wanted to bring up a part of the conversation that I haven't been seeing very much of and hear what you guys think. I am still looking forward to seeing the movie because despite the things that I saw as problematic, I really enjoyed the characters and the story, and I would still recommend the book because there are a lot of great things to think about. I just hope that this is a conversation worth having. I would love to hear what you guys think about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the comments. Bye!